Today we'll show you how to replace the speed controller for the Swactron EB5 electric bike. This bike's maximum speed is only about 15 miles per hour. I cannot just tell my boss every day the reason why I come to work late is because my bike is too slow. Or maybe I should tell him so that he can buy me a new electric bike. What do you reckon? But because I don't want to be jobless, I'm going to do something else to make my bike faster. And that's going to be as simple as replacing my bike's speed controller. Sounds simple, right? So there are a few ways you can achieve a faster speed with your e-bike. First is you can hack your controller and reinforce the connections on the controller to make it thicker with more solder or extra copper wires. Because thicker conductors can carry more current and therefore they can achieve more speed with more current going through it. This method might work on some controllers only. I know you can do this with the Razor electric scooter, but I'm not sure about this particular e-bike though. Looking at the size of this controller, I don't feel like I want to push it any more than it's designed for. The second way to increase the speed is to increase the voltage of your battery. This cannot be done on this bike because there's absolutely no more room for a bigger battery pack inside the battery compartment. That leaves me the last method is to replace with a whole new controller. And that's what I'm going to do next. So to remove the controller, fold the bike in half and remove the 4 screws. Next, you have to disconnect the cable that goes to the motor on the side of the bike. This will allow you to pull the controller out of the housing. There are no connectors on the controller for the wires leading to the motor because of the cramped space inside the housing. So they actually solder the motor wires directly to the controller. So the only way to disconnect the main cable is to cut it. Once you disconnect all the connectors leading to the controller, now you can remove it and put in a new controller. The main cable leading to the motor has 3-prong cable and a hall sensor cable. I tried to make some connectors for the main cable, but it doesn't look like there's enough space for these connectors inside the housing. So I'm gonna have to solder it directly to the controller. That shouldn't be a problem. But the problem here is that the hall sensor cable has 6 pins for the motor, whereas the hall sensor cable on the new controller only has 5 pins. So I went ahead and installed the hall sensor cable anyway and ignored the last pin, which is the white wire on the motor cable. The wires on the hall sensor cable are color coded, so all I gotta do is to match the color of all of the wires and I'm good to go. Alright, so I've got everything connected together here and I'll show you how to put everything together one connector at a time. First thing is the power connector and it has 3 wires. Looks like this. And the 2 thicker wires will go to the main terminal of the battery. There is a smaller wire, the red wire. This is the switch. So when this wire is connected to the main positive red wire, the motor will turn on. Otherwise, the motor will be normally off. But I'll show you how to connect this to the power switch for this bike in a little bit. The next wire is a 3-phase power wire that goes to your motor. And all you gotta do is match these 3 colors to your motor wire and you're good to go. The next wire is the hall sensor wire. On the controller, it's got 5 pins only. On the wire that goes to your motor on this bike, it has 6 pins. But all you gotta do is to match the color of these 5 pins. The extra 6 pin on this bike is white, and this doesn't have white and only has 5. So just ignore the white color on this bike's wire and you should be good to go. The next wire you have to connect is the brake wire. This is the Chinese label and that is the Google Translate. So it's got 2 wires. So basically how it works is if these 2 wires are connected together, it will cut power to the motor. But on this controller, it only has 1 connector. On the bike itself, it has 2 connectors, the front and rear brake. And these are the brake connectors for this bike. They are small connectors with red and black wires. So here is the brake cables. I just connect both wires together, so both red wires together. going to the white wire down below. Both black wires together, going to the black wire, going to the controller. And I tried it and it works just fine like this. And last but not least, the speed selector wire. It's got 3 wires, black, brown and blue. So basically, if you short out black and brown, you can run at low speed, or you short out black and blue, you can run at higher speed. Ignore this translation, it's kind of wrong. That's what it looks like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just cut this wire and permanently attach the black and blue pins so that I can run at a faster speed. So here's a test I've done earlier. So if I connect the blue and black wires together, I can achieve a 3% increase in speed relative to the normal speed. And normal speed means you just leave this wire alone and you don't short any pins. And according to my calculation, it will give me about 23 miles per hour when it's not under load. But that's only no load speed. It's going to be a bit less when I have my donkey over here on the seat. But hopefully it's going to be a little bit more than the original 15 miles per hour. Finger crossed. So next, let me show you how to connect the throttle cable to the controller. The throttle on this bike is a little bit more complicated than a regular e-bike because not only does it have a throttle, it also has a battery gauge and a power button. So the connector with the 5 pins that has 5 small wires in there, that's the throttle connector. And it stays way in there because the wire is too short and I can't pull it out. So I have to use these pins here to extend the wire. These are the pins I use. And the color on these pins corresponds correctly with the color inside the connector. So we got 5 wires that are black, red, blue, yellow and white. So the first 3 wires on this connector, they are black, red and blue. You can see there. And these 3 wires will go to the throttle cable, except that the throttle cable has a green wire, and the green wire will go to the blue, and the other 2 wires, they are matching in color. So the next wire is the yellow wire, and that is the switch. So we'll go to the switch on the power connector, which is the small red wire. The last wire is the white wire, which will go to the main positive of the system. This wire will go to the positive of the battery. I wrote down some notes here to make it easier to remember. So the 3 wires, black, red and blue, they are throttle cable. The yellow wire is a switch, on-off switch, which will connect to main, but it's normally off. So that is the switch wire. White wire connect to main positive, which is permanently on. So basically, when you push on the red switch to turn on the bike, you're actually connecting these 2 wires together. Let's give it a try, shall we? These connectors here take a lot of space inside the housing here, so it's not gonna have room for the connectors and the controller. So what I have to do is to cut. I think I'm gonna remove all of these connectors. I just have to cut the wires, remove the connector and solder the wire directly to the controller, and that way I can save a lot of room. The rest of the connectors, I'm just gonna cut it because I don't use them. Right, so I have soldered almost all the wires together. This is the main power cable. It goes to the motor. It has a 3-phase wire and the hall sensor cable. And I extend the wire a little bit longer. Okay. And these are the 2 connectors that I cut from. Next one is the main power cable. This is the one I cut, and I also extended a little bit longer. XT60 connector, so I can plug in and unplug it. Next one is the speed sensor cable, and I solder permanently the blue and black cables together. So I have only two connectors left, the throttle connector and the brake connector. So I just have to cut this and solder the cables straight onto the cables on the bike, because I cannot do it on the bench for those two cables. Also, the throttle cable on the bike has 5 wires, so these are the 3. The fourth one is the power, which I cut out from this connector. Okay, this is permanent, the main positive voltage, the red wire. And also this wire is the switch wire, which is from this wire on the power connector. The rest of the connectors on this controller are not needed, so I just cut them and then put some heat shrink to protect the wires from shorting out. And show you how much space I saved by cutting the wires. And the dimension of this controller, 4 5/8 inches long, 2 3/4 inch, and it is 1 3/8 inches thick. So here is the brake cables, and next to it is the throttle cable. You see I've soldered and heat shrink all 5 wires together. Well, trying to push the controller inside the housing, the wires are through just fine, but the controller is about 1.5 to 2 centimeters too long, and I cannot push this in. So I just went ahead and removed the cover, so that I have some space inside the controller. You can see there, it does have some space, so that all of these things here, especially the XT60 connector, can have room to get inside that space. It's not going to short out anything inside the controller, because everything here is insulated. The connector, the wires are all insulated. Got some foam here, just gonna push it in here to insulate the board, protect the board a little bit, just in case. Now I push it in, make sure the black wire is on the top, red wire on the bottom, and just push it in. There we go, we're in. Ready for the test. This number on the top here is the speedometer, so pay attention to this number on the top here. I got my GoPro ready and my camera holding on the other hand. $15, $17, $18, $19, $19 and a half. That's pretty good. 19 and a half. All right, here we go. Second run. $17, $18, $19, $19.8, $19, $20. Woo. 20.1. Oh my God. So there you have it. The original controller only gives me about 15 miles per hour maximum speed. This new controller gives me up to 20 miles per hour. That's a 33% increase in speed. Not only does it give me a faster terminal speed, it also takes much less time to achieve terminal speed. This is like adding a turbocharge to a regular engine. It makes it worth the time and money I invested in this upgrade. Now I can come to work on time and hopefully become an employee of the month for coming early to work early every day. I don't need a new e-bike anymore, but I do need a secondary battery because increasing speed will greatly reduce the range of this bike. So instead of having like 12 miles of range, now because I can go faster, I might only get about 10 miles or less. So I might not come to work late because of being too slow, but because I cannot get there before my battery dies. So my next project is to install a secondary battery to increase the range on this bike. Man, this upgrading game is never gonna end, is it? At the meantime, I can enjoy my new rocket and hopefully I can still arrive at work before my battery runs out. $20.50? Oh my god!